afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Bobbie Goldie with IAT, and I run corporate distribution as well as moving and storage. Welcome to the What's Brewing series, where we discuss products, services, industry trends, as well as what makes IAT unique. Quick bio on me. I've been in the business for almost 30 years, and yes, you guessed it, I started when I was 6. My experience spans broking, underwriting, a couple countries, and most recently, I have landed at a pretty amazing spot, IAT. I am absolutely excited to start this series off with Bill Cunningham, who is the CEO of IAT. He started with the company in 2014, and he's been an industry executive veteran for over 30 years in the P&C world. Thank you for joining me today, Bill.
Thanks for having me.
So for the folks that may not be as familiar with IAT, do you mind providing us a brief history lesson?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, IAT is privately owned. It's owned by the Kellogg family. Peter Kellogg is the chairman of the board. We're a specialty insurance company. We have a number of real specialty niches that we're in that we do extremely well. It's a great company to work for. It's a great culture, a great family to work for. Couldn't work for a better owner. We are dedicated to focusing on special insurance niches. We're not looking to become, Main Street American insurance company. Where we play, we think we play really well, and I look forward to talking more about that.
I will say there's not a lot of privately held insurance companies around, and it's pretty impressive how it works for our employees and how they're so well taken care of. And we can do the right thing for our insurance. There's not a lot of red tape, so it's very refreshing.
Absolutely.
So you were a well-known insurance executive in the industry, and out of all the places you could work, why did you choose IAT?
Well, what attracted me, quite honestly, right out of the gate was the fact that it was privately owned. I had spent, as you mentioned, 30 years working for a large publicly traded company, Dow 30 company, and in that environment, you have an obligation. You have an obligation to your public shareholders, you have an obligation to your investors to be updating them constantly. So whether it be earnings calls every quarter, investor meetings, meetings at different industry events, there was always a need to participate and be current and updating and sharing your story. And that, quite honestly, was not something I enjoyed very much. And it's a distraction. It's important, it's necessary when you're publicly traded, but it's not something that I found a lot of interest in and didn't think I was actually very good at it. So coming to work for a privately owned company where we can really focus on running the business every day, not distracted by things like earnings calls, investor meetings, analyst meetings.
And all the meetings, preparing for those meetings.
Absolutely. In fact, it's probably a 3-to-1 ratio, maybe a 4-to-1 ratio in terms of the amount of time you spend preparing versus the meetings themselves. And it distracts the whole organization because you want to make sure you're doing it right. You want to make sure you're doing it well, which many companies do it very well.
Yes.
That's not something that quite honestly I feel the need to get right here, and that we work for a family. We work for a family who is engaged in the business. We have quarterly meetings to update them on things. They ask very helpful questions. They're in it with us. We run the company together, and it's very much a partnership. But in terms of our outlook, it's very long term. Yeah. They look at things on years in terms of what are the right investment decisions, what are the right decisions for the business. And when you're working for a publicly traded company, it tends to feel quarter to quarter.
Yes.
That earnings call, what did we tell the street last quarter, and what are we delivering this quarter? Very long term in terms of how we look at things and how we make decisions, and again, it's a much better environment for me, and one that I think is a differentiator. You mentioned that there's not a lot of privately owned insurance companies. I'd press you to name another. In terms of a company of our size with $2 billion of gross written premiums, $1.5 billion of equity in the company. Over $3 billion of assets. I think we're one of, if not perhaps the largest privately owned insurance company in the United States.
And a profitable one.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is the agility. Once I realize once you work for those really large companies, it takes such a long time to make really important decisions because of all the channels you have to go through, all the approvals, the processes, the reviewing, researching, where for a specialty carrier, it seems to me that should be really important because you have to be agile in a specialty market.
Absolutely, and I would say that's not only being privately owned and having really, flat ownership, if you will, having a flat organization in terms of how we make decisions and empowering folks to make decisions. And I agree. I think being nimble, being able to have the conversation once, have the meeting at the meeting, make decisions and move is really important. It's important to our employees, it's important to our agents, it's important to our customers, and over time, I think it's a real competitive advantage.
Absolutely, I totally agree. So Bill, 7 years in, you seem to be very, very busy with the organization. So I wanted to get into that a little bit further.
Sure.
I wanted to start off with the specialty carrier aspect in the business unit. So can you tell us what flagship organizations really built IAT that started the foundation of this pretty amazing insurance company?
Absolutely. So I would say a couple. So commercial transportation, significant business for us. It's one of our largest business segments. We write long-haul truckers, both wholesale and retail.
Nice.
And in addition, TransGuard, our moving and storage business, one of the top 1 or 2 insurers of moving and storage risks in the U.S.
I'm pretty fond of that one, by
Absolutely.
the way.
and very profitable,
Yes.
I might add. Our independent contractor business, largely our occupational accident cover as an alternative to workers' compensation to independent truck drivers in the U.S. Our assumed reinsurance business. We write treaties for other insurance companies, largely surplus relief treaties for regional companies, not your national carriers, but more of your regional carriers we provide assumed reinsurance solutions to. Our E&S business. We have a binding business, we have a primary brokerage business, and we have an excess casualty business that we write on an E&S basis. Our homeowners business. We've been writing homeowners since 2008 through SageSure on MGA. And today it's close to $500 million of homeowners business that we write. So I would say those would be the 4 flagship businesses that were here when I got here.
That's pretty impressive, and it's pretty diverse.
Absolutely.
So then, what have you grown? What have you expanded to even make it more of a specialty carrier?
So we've expanded a couple of ways, both building businesses organically that we wanted to get into, and making acquisitions. And I'll start with some of the organic builds. We launched in the marine business a few years ago, and we've been very successful at attracting some really talented people, and we're building a very nice in the marine business. We got into the management liability business. We did that organically, and we've hired a dynamite team on the management liability side, private and nonprofit.
Nice.
And in terms of acquisitions, we acquired an MGA to get into the aviation business. And I think we had a plan to get to about $25 million of premium over the first couple of years. I think we're going to end this year close to $45 million.
Wow.
In terms of other acquisitions, we very much wanted to get into the surety business. And we acquired a top 8 surety writer, International Fidelity Insurance Company out of New Jersey 3 years ago. And today, we're proud to say that we've got a tremendous team, both commercial and contract surety, has some of the best results in the industry, and feel very strongly that we have some of the best people in the business in our surety business.
I find it interesting, some of the products that you've decided to go into in a pretty big commercial insurance market. To see the results and the growth in the organization really is a testament to the leadership and the expertise you brought in, because it's hard to start some of these businesses, especially organically.
And it boils down to the people. I mean, our distribution, our partners do business with people. I believe that strongly. Yeah. They don't do businesses with companies, they do business with people. So to the extent we have people that work for us, they can provide solutions, products, and they like doing business with them. They're people that they trust, they're people that they respect, They're people that are going to follow through on their promises. And if the answer is no, they hear that no really quickly, and we don't waste their time. To me, that is the most important component to becoming relevant. And
Yes.
if we're not relevant with our trading partners, then we're not going to be successful. And so every business that we've gotten into, we've asked ourselves, can we be relevant enough to make a difference? Can we be relevant enough to achieve what we want to achieve? Can we attract the right people that are going to distinguish us and have those kind of relationships? And we've said no to some things. There's some businesses that I wouldn't start organically. Getting into the surety business organically, to me, would be very difficult. And a lot of folks have tried that and have not been so successful with it. So we made a conscious decision to go out and buy a premium company and pay a premium for a premium company. In the marine business, I knew that if I could get the right leader, and that person could in turn attract some of the folks that we would need to follow, that we could build the marine business organically. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, but it's all about the people.
Yeah.
And you need to have the people that can deliver.
And you also mentioned, the Flagship binding business, but there's also, I think there was some growth on the excess casualty.
Yeah, so we actually, on the excess casualty side, we got lucky in two regards. One, I found the right leader for that business, Coy Rudd. And I knew that if I could get Coy, he could build a team. So we actually made the decision to start that business organically. Then at the same time, we had an opportunity. We had an opportunity to acquire an existing book of business. Rock Hill was selling their excess business, so we actually did a renewal rights transaction, and we were successful in not only bringing on a lot of that business, a lot of their very talented people. It's been a tremendous success. And now Coy is responsible for our entire E&S operation.
Very nice. One of the things I've learned is you have to have a diversified book of business in order to, maintain your talent, bring in profits, and continue to grow. And it seems like you've really done a good job of that. It's a very diversified book.
Absolutely, and it's a book we feel really good about.
Very cool. Another thing I'd love to talk about is trading partners. How do you see your trading partners? Is it where, we'll do business with anyone? Is it strategic? How does that relationship work with IAT?
Yes, and we do business with obviously a lot of different trading partners. We have retail trading partners, we have wholesale trading partners. But to me, it boils down to, can we be relevant enough with each other where it's worth our while? Our mutual, our respective worthwhile. So you can't be all things to all people. Mm-hmm. And so it's finding the right folks where we can build the kind of relationship that we think is necessary in transacting, where we have capabilities. From our own results perspective, if we're not relevant enough with a trading partner, it's not going to be a profitable venture for us. One of the things I've learned over the years is if where you're transacting, if you're not a top 3 market in the eyes of that agent or broker, you're not going to see or write their best business. Yep. And so we're going to be disadvantaged in terms of the quality and ultimately what the results in that business are. So just from a self-serving standpoint, we have to be relevant. And maybe we're not top 3 today, but the agent or broker wants us to be relevant. And so if there's a desire to be more relevant with IAT, we're willing to make that commitment, make that investment, and get to the point where we are in that top 3 spot in the markets where we serve and in the niches that we serve.
And it's interesting. So I've had lots of conversations with agents and brokers all across the organization in my moving and storage role, in my distribution role. And the one comment that is absolutely consistent is, how do I do more business with IAT? I want to do more business with IAT. There are so many insurance companies out there, but yet, for some reason, it's IAT every single time.
That's great.
The other thing, tying into trading partners is our insureds. You know, in the moving and storage industry, we have clients that have been with us for 25 years.
That's great.
In the independent contractor business, we have clients that have been with us for 25 years. So it appears that like we take the relationship to a different level on the trading partner side as well as the insured side. Again, a testament to the organization.
That's great.
Let's focus on one item that I think is extremely crucial in today's day and age. And it, you know, obviously the pandemic has, you know, exacerbated it, but technology.
Right.
It is extremely important in today's day and age to have the best technology. However, it's such an investment for a lot of companies, and they have a lot of legacy systems that
Absolutely.
they don't want to get rid of. So how is IAT handling it?
Yeah, so just, you know, a little bit of history. So technology was a significant need of IAT. And so one of the first decisions we made several years ago was to basically invest and replace all of our rate quote issuance platforms across the organization.
Wow.
And to the tune of close to $100 million of investment for the delivery of those capabilities. And we're about 3/4 of the way through that journey.
Nice.
In addition to that, the need for management information. You know, as I said earlier, equipping our folks to make better, faster decisions.
Yeah.
So we needed to leverage whatever data we had in our legacy systems and now in our new systems to provide real actionable information to our underwriters and our claims adjusters. And so that's really been a journey that we've been on. And you know, we have to have people that come to work at IAT and feel like we're current. Talent is, I look at technology and talent as really going hand in hand. This is a people business. This is a human capital business.
Yes.
And we're as good as our people are. And our ability to attract and retain and develop the best people, and if they're showing up to a technology platform that feels like 1973, we're just not going to have a lot of success with that. So
I think those were like green screens back then, maybe. I don't even know what it was in 1973. Maybe orange screens.
well, ours were green in 2017. So
Oh my goodness.
so we've made a lot of progress, and couldn't feel better about our IT organization and our businesses working hand in hand with our IT group to really deliver, you know, state-of-the-art technology. And I look at our businesses, like our binding business as an example, where, you know, historically we did not have a system that could really stand up to what was needed. And so that's where we started. You know, we started in our binding business as an example because that's really where we knew our distribution was going to feel the benefit of, you know, firsthand.
Yes.
So where we can help agents more directly, you know, became our priority, and we're well into that journey and feel really good about, you know, where we are today and the enhancements we continue to make there, and we're seeing it, you know, in our results. You know, that business has been growing very nicely over the course of the last 3 quarters.
Yeah, and you have to have a pretty good organization on the business side as well as the IT side to get where you said you were at 3/4 of the way done in a few years, right? Yep. That is absolutely amazing because, you know, technology folks and business folks sometimes don't talk the same language, so it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and it's also getting in the mindset of you need to constantly be developing.
Yes.
And I would say historically at IAT, 95% of our budget was on maintaining what we had, and very little was allocated to new development. And when I say we're 3/4 of the way done of rolling out the base platform.
Yeah.
But this is a race with no finish line, and we're gonna continue to run the company and manage our IT budget in a way that we have at least half of our dollars freed up every year for development.
Wow.
Because there's constant changes in technology.
Yes.
And the good news is the technology that we've rolled out, the way it's architected, you know, you can basically plug in new capabilities as time goes on. And so I think we're incredibly well positioned for whatever new enhancements and development needs we have 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Okay, so let's talk about, I think this is really important and we should spend some time on it, is the culture. You know, when you look at the organization, in the past, it was, these silos or these acquisitions. And today, when I look at the company, I see a culture of IAT, of us. We're in this together. And so can you talk about that, the culture, and how you've engaged the staff, the employees, and how you've built this pretty amazing culture that's not very familiar in other places?
Yeah, to me it starts with how we treat each other. And I say all the time, it's easy to copy a lot of things. You can copy the words on a policy. You can copy compensation. You can copy benefits. You can't copy culture. And the values that you talk about have to be the values that people feel. Values can't be words written on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
The culture is, how would the average employee describe what it feels like to work at IAT? And to me, that is culture. That is what we've been continuously working on. And we're better having people coming in feeling like, first of all, they can be themselves. They can express their views. They feel an obligation to express their views. And their opinion's their opinion. And just because it's not the same as the boss, there's no ramifications on that. In fact, we get at the table and we have the dialogue because we want to hear different perspectives. Because if we do, we'll make better decisions. People will feel empowered. They'll feel like they're actually helping contribute because they are, versus an environment where we all have to just agree with what the boss says and make it so. And so we've really been working on that. And we spend a lot of time asking our employees how we're doing. We do a survey every year as an example. We do a lot of small group discussions and do everything we can to try to put our money where our mouth is and really, listen. Yeah. People see us actually taking action from a lot of suggestions, and people seeing their opinions influencing, and it's powerful. And so as I think of a culture, I also don't think of a place that's easy to work on. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. We have a high bar in terms of what we expect. We can challenge each other. We can disagree with each other, but do it respectfully. And for the fourth year in a row, we've gotten the Great Places to Work designation. I think close to 90% of our employees said all things considered, IAT is a great place to work. And to me, that's
amazing.
That's really important. Especially
when you have folks all over the United States to feel that way. It's pretty fabulous. And I find it really refreshing in today's day and age when we're dealing with so much and we spend a majority of our time at work. It really is impactful when you take pride in ownership. And you empower your folks, they will do good by you. They Absolutely. Will naturally do good by you. And you see it every day at this company.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, Peter Kellogg, the owner, always says, you take care of your people, they'll take care of the business. Yeah. And we live with that mantra every day.
Yeah. Yes, it's pretty refreshing. I've absolutely enjoyed my time. I've worked at several organizations, large ones, small ones, publicly traded, privately traded. And it is not very often that I felt like the words on the paper were actually what was lived by. And, talking to your folks in the beginning and actually coming to work for this organization, I feel ownership. I feel proud of this company. I feel so great to say I work at IAT.
Yeah, I think talent is the biggest challenge facing this industry, and for a bunch of different reasons. I think the industry took a sabbatical from training and developing folks for at least a decade. With all of the acquisition activity, with all the consolidation taking place in the industry, a lot of companies put their training programs on the back burner. So we haven't been developing a lot of new talent. So one of the things that we did 5 years ago was we put a training program in place where we're training our own underwriters, we're training our own claims adjusters. And it's not an or, we're training and we're always looking to attract the best experienced talent that's out there. And so I look at talent as a continuum. I think one of the challenges that I see, I've been on the board of a college for the last 8 years. And as I talk to college students, just a lack of awareness and a lack of understanding of what our industry is
Yes.
and what the career opportunities are in our industry. I don't see a lot of people leaving our industry once they realize, what a neat gem it is. The people you get to work with, the agents and brokers, the customers, and you're solving a need. I mean, if you look at the economic value of what we provide as an industry in terms of folks being able to transfer risk so they can take other risks and invest in new products and technology, and you look at all of the career paths that are available to you, once you begin engaging with young talent, and it's a totally different industry than what they thought.
Yeah.
So I think we need to get better at telling our story as an industry.
Yes.
And I think we collectively need to all invest to make sure we're doing everything we can to continually develop talent.
So now if we really talk about it, going a little bit further, what has IAT done on the culture side to really retain our talent that's above and beyond what you typically see in the industry?
I think the conversations that we have at the most senior levels of the organization, across the organization, with our employees, in creating an environment where people feel safe and comfortable having a conversation. Mm-hmm. So it's not a room of 100 people. Small group discussions. Yeah. And if you look through COVID as an example, I was really concerned about everybody working remotely, the isolation, and there was a number of events that took place in the country. And so we created these small community forums and had some really, really good dialogue. And I think our employees appreciated having that opportunity. Yeah. I know as a participant in those forums, I found it really insightful and helpful to hear people's perspectives on a number of different fronts. And I think to the extent you can have those conversations and we're real with each other, that creates an environment where people start feeling safer and safer. If we can talk about race in this country in small group forums, we can talk about getting rate, and everything else we talk about is so much easier.
Absolutely.
And we had some real open discussions on race and the challenges and the opportunities, quite honestly. We had a lot of conversations on working remotely and how a lot of folks wanted to continue working remotely all the time. Some folks couldn't wait to get back to the office. Mm-hmm. And through that feedback and those discussions, we've emerged with what I think was a really good balance. We have a hybrid approach where we're in the office 3 days a week. Folks have the option to work remotely on Thursdays and Fridays. And I think we've found the right balance there. I think folks appreciate having the flexibility, but I think understand and recognize the importance of being together and collaborating and in building our culture. I don't know how you build a culture or keep a culture over time if we're all working remotely 5 days a week. Yeah. I don't think it's possible.
And it is. You need the balance, and it seems like you've struck the right balance with that.
I think we have.
Absolutely. How about I'm a little bit older, so I wouldn't use this benefit, but there's a college tuition benefit or something that we have at IAT, which I think is pretty unique to the industry.
Yeah. So to me, it's about putting our money where our mouth is, right? We want to attract and retain the best people. We want to develop our people, and so before I go to the tuition reimbursement, we encourage our folks that work for us to take advantage of any educational opportunities that we have. Well, we reimburse up to $5,000 a year in tuition reimbursement.
Nice.
In addition, as we're looking to attract young talent, gritty talent, we have a lot of folks that have gone to college and have some college debt. We partnered with Gratify, and we provide up to $300 a month in loan reimbursement to our employees. We'll match 50 cents on the dollar.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. That really, really is, because that is real debt that a lot of folks that have went to college have to deal with.
Absolutely. And I think college debt's become a dirty word, which I struggle with. Yeah. I had student loans myself,
Me too.
And to me, there's no better investment you can make than your education.
Yeah.
And it costs money. And if I waited until I had the money to go to college, I don't know that I ever would have. And so I just think I look at a responsibility on the private sector to compete for labor.
Yeah.
And we're doing it to be as competitive as we can. And to the extent we're differentiated, we'll be competitive. But quite honestly, I hope more companies follow suit.
Yeah.
I hope more and more companies do the same thing, quite honestly.
Absolutely, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense in today's day and age. Yep. With all that we spoke about today, I always like to end on a positive. So what are you optimistic about with IAT?
I couldn't feel better about our people. I'm optimistic that I think that whatever's in front of us, we can deal with as well as anybody. And when you've got challenges like this, usually what emerges from it are opportunities. And I think we're going to have more and more opportunities to prove to people how unique we are and what we can do. And I look forward to becoming more relevant with more of our agents and brokers, through this period of time. But again, it's our people. I'm optimistic that our technology platform is positioning us in a way that we can be much more responsive today than we could be 4, 5, 6 years ago. I'm optimistic on the outlook, the long-term outlook of this country. Things are going to continue to evolve. I believe the economy over time will continue to grow. I think the country certainly has infrastructure needs that need to be addressed. And I think in the aggregate, that creates tremendous opportunities for this industry.
Absolutely.
And again, as I said, I think the people that we have and the capabilities that we have, we're positioned to capitalize on all of that over the long haul. What will next year look like? What will this year look like relative to some of the things we talked about? Don't know, but we'll work through it. But again, over time, I'm incredibly optimistic on what we do, the country we do it in, and the people we have that do it.
Wow. Well, that is a fabulous way to end this conversation. So I cannot thank you enough for being my guest today, Bill.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining. I'm Bobbie Goldie with What's Brewing. See you next time.